G'day punters and welcome back to another episode of The Snapshot. I'm Ryan Cook. Joining me is my good buddy Tom Rockcliffe. Tommy, you look nice and dry. It's been a long week really for us up here in southeast Queensland. I trust you saw a lot of footy though over the weekend. Is that all you got up to?
Yeah, pretty much. I got no power, so lost a bit of power, fair bit of rain. Wasn't quite as bad as we thought, was it, the cyclone? But the rain that's come after it's been pretty bad. But yeah, only 2 games, bit of a fizzer. The opening round, I would have thought the AFL would be disappointed with how it played out. But that's probably for the other show to talk about that one.
No, absolutely. Look, the cyclone was a bit of a fizzer for most of us, apart for those on the Gold Coast. So we did have 2 games postponed up here in Queensland, but we will touch on the 2 games that we saw. We'll start with the Hawks and the Swans right back on Thursday night. I go back to last week. You told me that the Hawks can't make the top 8. Are you double downing here, or are you changing your mind, mate?
Didn't say they can't make it. I said I believe they won't make it, and they were impressive, weren't they? Probably egg on me face after round 0, but they were impressive. I think they're firmed almost into premiership favourites, which I find crazy as well. I think Brisbane is still the number 1 seed, but Hawthorn were impressive. Can't take anything away from them. Swans, where do they go? It's only round 0, so we'll wait and see what happens, but. I just feel like Hawthorn will get worked out, but they tick a few boxes with Barrass and a few of those guys coming in battle as well. So sound in defence, they were impressive.
We'll talk about a few key players for Hawthorn in a moment when we get to the Brownlow section. Let's quickly touch on Sydney though, because they were ruining the missed chances in front of goal, and that's sort of been the story for them over the last couple of seasons, really. What do you make of their forward line? We saw Amadi have a big impact, but then Nick Blakey only kicked the 1 goal, didn't have a huge impact himself. Sam Wicks, how do they sort this out, Rocky? They've almost got too many players that they can play up forward, don't they? Yeah,
they've got a lot of options, so sometimes you can lose sight of the best one going forward. So they're going to have to work out what's the best outcome for them. Papley, again, he looks damaging when he's around it, but then he just, whether his foot is 100% ankle. So I think they've still got options. I think they'll be okay, Sydney. I think they'll be fine. They're just sort of feeling their way a little bit. Their game plan, I'm sure, will be, say, 80, 90% exactly the same. There might be a 10% tweak from Dean Cox. He might have seen a couple of things that they can work on. They're just as likely to come out and beat Brisbane this weekend on their home deck again, get to not travel the first 2 weeks. So they would have learned a few things out of it. But, I mean, you guys with like Chad Warner, Isaac Heaney running around, you're going to get your opportunities in that forward half, Blakey off half back as well. So I think they're still right amongst it, Sydney. They'll be up there. I think they'll be top 4, top 6 team, and they'll be hard to beat once they start to click.
Yeah, you touched on the Chad there. He's already looking like he's going to be a firm contender in the Brownlow market. Let's pivot to that. Will Day, I said last week that there'd been a bit of interest from the Neds punters on him at about 101 to win the Brownlow. He firmed into $51, and now he's into $11. 3 goals, 26 touches, 6 tackles. That equals 3 Brownlow votes, you'd have to think. Do you think this market's a bit of an overreaction, or should the punters take the $11 while they still can?
Bit of an overreaction. You still got those best players in the competition. Paddy Cripps, who hasn't started his campaign yet. Bontempelli, we know he's out for a while. So maybe it is someone externally. Lachie Neale's going to be prominent again. Nick Dacos, he looks maybe a little bit underdone, challenging pre-season. But Will Day, I think he had 3 votes sealed halfway through the second quarter. He was super impressive, 17 and 3, I think, nearly by half time. So it was a 3-vote performance. There's no doubting that. Can he consistently do it? He's a good player. He's been consistently doing it for a couple of years now. Hawthorn, if they can win their fair share of games, potentially there's no one really going to steal votes from him, I don't think. In that midfield, you've got Warple, who's going to miss a bit of time now. They've got good players across the board, Hawthorn, but Will Day is going to be their prominent midfielder, I think, so he's going to poll a lot of votes.
Yeah, you saw the immediate impact he had on the side. He's just a very reliable kick of the ball as well. And that also goes for the next name I want to talk about here, Finn Callaghan. Look, the Giants were super impressive on Sunday. Blew Collingwood right out of the water. I want to get your opinion here. Where do you think he ranks within the midfielders in the competition? Do you have him in your top 10?
Well, when it came out that he'd been offered what he'd been offered by St Kilda, I was like, who? How is he going to be paid that? But, I mean, first round, you'd be super, super impressed with what he was able to perform there for the Giants. So he's going to, if he continues to develop like that, he's going to be super impressive. But, I mean, Tom Green still to come back into that midfield. I think they're probably the sleeping Giants for the flag. I'm not sure if you've got the odds in front of you now, but the Giants, they've got Tom Green to come back in. Who else? They got Stringer, who's amongst them now as well, and also the Coleman medal winner from last year, Jesse Hogan. So they're going to be hard to stop. If they play like that, their skill level chopped Collingwood apart. The longer the game went on, the more impressive they got. Collingwood probably had the better of them at the start of the game, but the Giants were in front. Sam Taylor, he's been super, super impressive. I think he's probably the best player in the competition. He's most important for his team. He marks everything. Opposition players try and take him out of the contest as well. So I think he should potentially be the highest paid player in the game.
All right, well, look, let's get back to the Brownlow. Just the odds shift for Callaghan has been enormous. Not quite Will Day areas, but into $31. And I think he was around the triple digits earlier last week as well. So those are two big names to watch in the betting there. Let's look ahead to this coming Thursday night, the traditional season opener, even though we've already had a couple of games. Richmond taking on Carlton. It wasn't that long ago that this was basically the Tigers' game to lose, but we spoke before we started recording, Rocky. You can take $10 for the Tigers head-to-head, and I think the line's floating somewhere around about 49.5 points. Is this basically Carlton's game to lose now, do you think?
Well, I think so. Richmond, we've seen what they've done. They're going to be good in a couple of years' time, but they're going to be in for a couple of tough seasons. They get a couple of injuries. They could, we spoke about it last week, have 200 put up against them. So I think it's a tough start for them on Thursday night. Carlton, they've got a couple of injuries as well, though, so they won't be 100%. I think Curnow got ruled out as well. But yeah, I think Carlton get the job done and start their season, because I think Michael Voss might be under a bit of pressure as well. But yeah, I think it's Carlton's. Carlton will win that and win that comfortably.
Feels like the Blues are the safest bet potentially of the coming round. Let's get to the multi. We finally have some value for the punters after last week's bet was void after the Gold Coast game was postponed. You kick us off, Rocky. You have the Dogs, I believe.
Yeah, we're going to play safe because the NRL show, they're up and about, which you're part of, so you'd be very happy about that. But we've got to make sure that the AFL continues because it's just you and me. It's you're involved in all of them. So I'm going to take the Bulldogs just head-to-head. Safe bet, I think, against North Melbourne. North will be better than what they've been over the last couple of years, but $1.38. We'll tick that off on Saturday afternoon, and then I'll transition into Sunday's game. And I like the Giants, as I just said. I think they could potentially firm in the premiership market. They might be the team to beat. They may be the number one seed, depending how Brisbane come out. But -5.5 against Melbourne, I think, is great value at $1.90.
No, I can't argue with any of that. I'm taking the Crows 1-39. I said last week I think they're a genuine contender to make the top 8. I am a little bit worried about this game blowing out, potentially against St Kilda, but we needed a bit of value, so I'm going to throw in 1-39 for the Crows, $2.15. And then lastly, on Sunday, West Coast head-to-head against the Gold Coast. You can take $2.45 for the Eagles at home in Perth, so I think that's good value. All up, we've got the Dogs head-to-head. We've got the Crows 1-39. Giants to cover against Melbourne. West Coast head-to-head against the Gold Coast. $13.81 if you don't mind.
Oh, that's juicy. That'll be a good start.
Yeah, we need it, Rocky. Let's, fingers crossed, we can get one off the board nice and early and match the NRL show.
Good on you, Ryan. Have a good week.
Thanks, Rocky.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website